That's it. Great.
Thank you.
You seem like you're doing a little bit better.
Yeah, it stopped hurting after Thanksgiving or right around Thanksgiving.
Net sheets.
And,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden I walked and walked and walked.
Oh, that's my other skin.
I'm gonna call them.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and also with it being in season, you don't know how busy they are.
right, well, right, exactly, that's why I'm gonna call now. So
Yeah.
my neighbor said to me. I need to go to Canada. Moisture removal, so. Maybe,
Well,
and he said two, but.
really,
He's okay.
do you know what type of material are they using?
Mm-mm. I know.
You should find out, because if it's metal, like, you need to know that if you ever get an MRI or a CT or something.
I'm not over this, so. I thought it was fun to walk through the airport, you know, whatever. I won't be sure nobody says anything. Here it is. I have, 2 plates and 3 screws of this.
And then a machine that could go ding, ding, ding.
Unless it's not living, but I'm pretty sure it will.
Yeah.
I should have wore the sleeveless day. I'm burning.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. All right, come on.
Please. Well, broker Jack, Alex,
Yeah,
that's
do you-
just Jack.
Jeff, do you want to see that one? Because if not, I can go while you're doing class.
I don't mind, whatever you like.
I'm asking you.
Pardon?
I'm asking you because you're
Oh,
the guy.
I'd like to
that-
say I would, but I can't really do it till after lunch.
No, I understand. You have 2 classes and I'm okay with that. I'm just wanting to know if you want to see it, because then I will wait.
I would.
Okay, then I'll see,
all right.
then I'll wait.
If you need a car, I'll give you my car too, no problem.
Well, you'll just let me drive your car when we go.
Okay,
Okay, then.
we'll get there in a hurry then. So I guess we're a class of 1, I don't
Yeah,
care
I
to be
got some
anybody
shit
on
fast.
Zoom. And, you know, this is a relatively easy thing to see and say, well, that's easy, until you get your contract and go, oh, what do I do now?
Yeah,
So I use this venture title services, .titlecapture.com, and I bookmark that site, and this is what you get. So you can do an estimate fairly easy. I'll just go through a sample of a seller estimate. Now, if you log in to the site and you put your picture in there in your profile in your settings, you can, and if you want to put your default costs, like what commission rate and all that, and you can put in, you know, you can, once you put it in, you can edit the thing at any time. So if they say, well, what happens if it looks like this, or what happens if it looks like that? Then the point is, you can, when you're doing going on a listing appointment, and you're giving the seller a range of of prices, you kind of want to maybe do one on the low end and one on the high end. So well, the purpose of this is to let the seller know if if I sell my place for 635,000, what is my net? Okay?
okay.
And we've had a lot of agents have a lot of success with that because other agents aren't bringing them that information. And, you know, probably after the first of the year, we'll start requiring this for all listings and for all buyer presentations, because it's part of the transparency thing. And it's part of, really, I think it's professionalism in the sense that, you know, if you're a seller, what do you want to know? Oh, what's the commission rate? Oh, great. Oh, what's the price? Oh, great. No, how much is in my pocket if I do this, or if I sell for that. And when you show them all the other costs they have to bear, your commission is not such a big red flashing light. It's part of the process, but it's not, I mean, pretty much when you talk to a seller, go on a listing appointment, if they're talking to more than one agent, well, they want to know what price do you recommend? How much you're gonna charge? And that's only a very small part of the picture for a seller. What the seller needs to know is, if I take this action, what's my net? Okay? So if you've got your computer, you can sign into that venturetitleservices.titlecapture.com, and you don't have to do it now, but go ahead and sign up for an account and put your picture in, and we'll show you in a minute that if this produces a very nice flyer that you can share you can bring on your listing appointment, you can share, over email. But I think the purpose of all this is we went to buyer broker agreements to show property. We're just trying to make the whole process of purchasing or selling a home more transparent. So to me, this is a logical extension to what we went through to comply with the NAR settlement. All right.
Okay.
So this is one that I've already done, but we can do one if you like from scratch. But all we did was, when we put the information in, we put in the sales price, and the settlement fee, municipal lien search, and notary for closing is just default costs they put in there. And you can take any one of these out, but they'll automatically pay $7 per thousand for doc stamps. That's always a seller's charge. All right. If there's a loan on the property, and we'll show you that in a couple minutes, how to get that information, then you obviously you need to pay off the loan. And then here's the buyer and agent compensation. If you have a transaction fee, it goes in there. So when a deal closes at any time other than January 1st, the seller, the day of closing is the buyer, right? So anything up to the day of closing from January 1, the seller gives a credit to the buyer for the taxes that were accumulated between January 1 and the date of closing. Right? Essentially, if you close on January 1, there would be no credit because all the taxes are paid up to 12/31. The way our tax system works, though, you're billed in arrears. In other words, you're going to be billed in November of 24 with the taxes due by March 31st of 25 for the year of 24. So everything is a year, what we call in arrears, because they do the assessments in the county. They do the assessments around June, then they go through a bunch of budget reviews. Then there's a final tax assessment for each home in the county, and that is published on November 1st and due on March 31st. And there's a discount November, December, January, February. So there's 4%, 3%, 2%, 1%, and in March, no percent discount. So that's how taxes work. And you have to remember they're a year behind because the valuation is determined in June of the year of the tax, but it's not payable until March of the next year. Okay.
So broker Jeff, could you explain those discounts one more time?
Sure. In order to get, if you pay your taxes in November of this year that are due next year in March, you get a 4% discount.
Okay.
3% in December,
Okay.
2% in January, 1% in February, and no percent in March.
Okay.
It's just an incentive to pay your taxes early, is what it is.
Okay.
And most people, especially if you have a mortgage, most mortgage companies will will take the discount, as part of their escrow. But you don't have to pay it until after, you don't have to pay your own taxes until March. But 4% of, whatever the amount is, if it's $5,000, 4% is not, a big deal, but it's a little bit of,
Yeah.
it's a little bit of savings.
Yeah.
So the county taxes get a credit based on the closing date. To the buyer. Homeowners Association, again, based on the date of closing, and you'll pick a date of closing for your estimate. The seller's responsible for all HOA dues up to the day before closing, with the day of closing being, it's not a really good one. We can look at, well, let's look at one where there's a loan being paid off. Okay, so this one is, oops, I picked the buyer one. You need a seller net sheet. There we go. Okay, so basically this is a seller net sheet. Sales price $595. What is the seller's net? So we go to the sales price, we subtract the closing fees, we subtract the doc stamps, we subtract the first loan payoff. In this particular case, it's an agent, so she wasn't taking any commission, and she had both sides, so she didn't pay any commission. Every one of these is a little bit different, but the point is that what you want really is, you want to make sure that all the costs are in there, and we can just do, we can show you by doing a new estimate of a seller net sheet. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to put the property address in there. Let's see if I can. And then you're going to put your property address in, and you're going to say, you're gonna say that there's a purchase with financing or it's cash, right? And you're gonna put a sale price in of, I don't know. That's what your list price is gonna be. You're gonna estimate a closing date, let's say of, so my suggestion when you're talking about a closing date is never Monday and never Friday.
Okay.
If it's Friday and something goes wrong, people are moving, they want to move in over the weekend or whatever. If it's Monday, that's when all the problems from the weekend come in. So I think you're better off Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Okay.
Just, all right. So who pays for title insurance? In our case, it's usually the buyer, but it can be different from county to. So in this case, the buyer pays. Is this a lender transaction? Yes. I'm borrowing the money. And then I can have a loan payoff. And the loan payoff, you can have a first loan, a second loan. Let's say it's just for, all right. And then the seller's agent is going to get, buyer's agent is going to get, and if you collect the brokerage doesn't have a transaction fee, But you can choose as a listing agent or a selling agent, a transaction fee to cover your admin costs.
Okay,
Okay, if there's any seller concessions, they go in here, right? The seller's giving $5,000 at closing for the buyer's costs. Here's your homeowners association dues. Again, you can get this really right off the MLS. Say it's quarterly and it's let's maybe a little more than that. Let's make it. Sellers paid their dues. Okay. Property taxes. Again,
question, what is resale certificate?
that you get that, you can get that off of the MLS, right? What the property taxes were, or you can go into call your appraiser and get what last year's property taxes were.
Okay,
All right. And then if there's any other seller expenses or credits, we gave a concession up above. If there's anything else, then you can put it in there if it's an expense, or if there's a credit coming to the seller for any reason. All right, and we calculate. We say, okay, if we sell for $950, I wonder why it's negative. Oops.
Huh.
Oh, seller concession. So now we're saying, okay, we made a mistake there. Let me just go back and edit that. But this is a real easy little thing to so the seller concession was an amount. And then you can recalculate.
okay,
All right. So you can see that, and you can run this for different sales prices. You can run it for different concessions. If there's no concession, there's your so what you're doing here is you're saying to the seller, look, I know there's a commission here, but there's a lot of other things that go into what your net is. And based on that selling price, that's what you would net, right?
so up at the top where it says place order, what does that do?
That would essentially send the order over to venture title. But where I just think you use it to do your estimate, and then you go ahead and you put in your, and you can do produces a real nice little PDF that you can use.
Okay,
So you can bring that with your presentation, listing presentation, shows you there's your smiling face and your contact information. And they're our title partner, so the buyer doesn't have to use them, the seller doesn't have to use them, it's just there to show here's what if I sell for, here's what I can expect to net.
that's great,
Pretty easy, right?
yeah,
Now, for if you wanted to, the title company can do these for you. All you have to do is give them the information. But to me, it's just as easy to put this in
yeah. It
and
does
produce
seem
it
like it's pretty
and
easy.
bring it with you on your listing.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go to the other side.
Okay.
And the other side is you're working with a buyer and you're working with a buyer and you want to know been doing that. There we are. You're working with a buyer. So I suggest as you get closer to writing a contract, that they start to zero in on a home, right? And I would suggest at that point that you find out from them if they're financing, you'll have the pre-approval letter from the lender showing the amount. And they can get the loan costs from their lender, right? And I think that if it's at all possible, I think you should just do one of these, even though it might not be exactly to the point. But before that buyer signs the contract, do they know what they really want to know is how much is it going to cost me to own this house per month? But the other thing is that buyers really usually don't figure, because they're in the emotion of buying a house and all the things they're going to do, is how much they have to bring to closing. And that's usually quite a shocker to some buyers. They're thinking, oh, I'm going to put 20% down and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But there's an awful lot of not hidden, but standard costs that they may not be figuring. So there's the owner's title policy, there's the lender's title policy, title search, closing fees, endorsements. These are all things that would come to somebody wanting to buy a home. And there's your deed recording fee, your mortgage recording fee, doc stamps on the mortgage. So doc stamps are collected from the seller traditionally on the selling price of the house. But if the buyer gets a mortgage, they also have to get a title policy on the mortgage. So a buyer, even though they don't pay, they're going to pay for the title policy on the overall home, they're also going to pay for the title policy on the mortgage. Okay, there's two title policies that come into play here. Okay, and there's no compensation. There could be a buyer's fee, and that's then gives them a nice little so you can click this more information, loan type conventional, term, interest rate, PMI rate, who pays for title insurance, is this a lender transaction, county is Collier, the city's Marco Island, and all of this information goes into the total amount of money they have to bring to closing for the down payment. And pretty much every lender will require the buyer pay several months of insurance, several months of whatever other closing costs there are. Could be HOA fees, could be condo fees. Generally, the lender will require advance payment of 6 months to a year of those fees as part of, especially if they're going to escrow the money. So you have to get the lender's fees there, and the other expenses and credits that would be the credit from the seller for the property taxes. Okay. So this is a sheet that I think the more you can, and many lenders will produce at least a preliminary sheet, and you will have to add, some costs to it. I don't know that we added insurance in here. There's a down payment, prepaid interest, title costs, recording and transfer. That's any credits. We added inspections in there. I would definitely call and get a quote from the insurance agent as to what insurance is going to cost per year.
Okay,
And that's because insurance rates are shockers to people, and they've gone up quite a bit, partially because of a number of storms we've had, but also partially because the value of people's homes has gone up.
okay.
So, and again, if you wanted to edit that, you just go in and let's say we want to add We want to add home insurance, that's in there, right?
Mhm.
We want to add property taxes, that's in there. We want to add real estate commission. No buyer, the buyer's not paying any commission, just the buyer's fee. No HOA, it's on Marco Island. Impounds would be if the lender requires that the buyer pay monthly. That's part of their closing costs, right? Lender fees. That again can come from the lender. Generally, there might be an origination charge, there might be an appraisal fee, credit report. All that will come from a document that the lender will provide to the buyer, saying, here's what it's going to cost you to do the loan. Any other, here we put inspections in there. All right, so you can do an initial from a buyer, if they're paying cash, it's not a problem, right? There's not a lot of lender fees and things like that. If they're financing, you definitely want to get the information from the lender as to how much their lender fees are going to be. And if they're putting less than 20% down, then a lot of times they'll have to pay private mortgage insurance, which is a fee that's paid every month. And it's paid into a fund in case that loan goes bad. The mortgage insurer would pay off to the lender. That's generally based on how much you put down. If you put less than 20% down, generally there'll be some type of mortgage insurance. There's your home insurance, there's your property taxes. So I think that one of the nice things for a buyer is, they're pre-qualifying for a certain amount. And they don't have any idea in their mind, other than what the mortgage payment is, what it's going to cost them to live there, right? So we've added home insurance, property taxes, all the things that go into the principal and interest is $5,000, but the monthly cost $6,300. So I think that the more you can get out ahead of the buyers when they're zeroing in on a house, get the insurance information, get the lender costs in there, and do one of these sheets so that they're not shocked at closing, or when they're getting ready to close, they're not shocked at how much they have to bring and what their monthly payment's going to be, total monthly payment. And I think that's a way to build trust with your buyer.
Yeah.
Because you can do it, and even if it's a little bit off, you can always revise it. But the point is that you're out front before the buyer signs on the dotted line. They at least have some idea what they're looking at.
So should this be done before they make an offer?
I think that if you have time, generally the market is not moving at such a pace that, you've gone for a showing, maybe you've gone for a second showing. At that point, if they're starting to say, we really like this home, at that point, you want to get the insurance information, you want to get all the property tax information and everything. And I think that if you can, at least get them something before they sign the contract.
Okay.
Because if they look at it and go, I don't want to pay that. What about if you made an offer and the offer got accepted? Then it's like, what can you do now?
Yeah.
Maybe you can get out on financing contingency or something like that. But the fact is that if they don't know this information before they make their offer, all of a sudden they're going to look to you and go, well, why didn't you tell me? Why am I finding this out now? So I really think it's again a transparency thing, and the more you can do, the more you're building trust. Right?
That makes sense.
So again, once you get all this figured out, you can just download your PDF and you can give that to the buyer. Say, okay, I just want you to know, this may need to be adjusted, but here's what you've told me you're gonna do with your mortgage. And here's what, where the, how did I get a, I thought we did a download PDF. Oh, there we go. So now we've got a nice buyer's estimate. And there's all the information. There's all the things I have to pay in. And, even though this may be just a first pass at it, it's certainly better to me for a buyer to have this before they sign. So now these numbers could change a little bit, but this is what you're looking at. Because they're thinking, oh, I got a quote from the lender that said it was 5,000 a month. I was okay with that. But now you're telling me it's 6,300 a month. That's a lot different than what we originally talked about. So,
Yeah.
And that's it. There are tons of programs out there that'll do this. Venture's our partner. This is decent software. There's a fancier stuff out there, but I think I just pick one and have your profile in there. And then, there's also some nice, flyers.
Oh, what is that too? Are those for something different?
I'm sorry,
Are those flyers for something different?
I've never looked at the flyers before.
Oh, okay.
Let's see what it looks like. Just little things you can give them. Branded to you.
Gotcha.
There are some more sophisticated, systems and they have, they'll give you what's located in the area and all that. I just think that you're trying to be transparent and build trust. And this is good. If you wanted to go to something fancier, there are, fee for service, programs and you can also pretty much do this on your mobile phone.
Okay.
So it's my intent to require these starting next month. Hi, Debbie.
Hi,
How are you?
good, how are you?
Are you not feeling well?
No, I'm just making sure that I don't get anybody else's,
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
That's smart.
courteous to her fellow realtors.
Yes, always.
So anyhow, we're just talking a little bit about buyer and seller net sheets. And I just used this venture title site. Did you have a question?
No, I wanted to make a statement. Cause I did one for my new listing
Uh-huh,
and I put, I did it for different months.
right,
Because there's a difference in the profit and I didn't really,
right,
there was a big difference between closing in December
right. The closing,
and January.
right. Taxes. So in December, you get an 11-month credit from the seller. Or the seller gives an 11-month credit to the buyer. And in January, it's 0. So the buyer picks up the whole year of taxes. And if it's lender, they're gonna want that whole thing escrowed. Yeah, it does change the bait. So you can go back into this thing, you can see how you can edit the closing date, you can edit the costs, and then produce another estimate there pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we've pretty much been talking about this for 2+ months. And I think it's time to just build it into your routine.
So when you said that this is something that we're going to start doing, is it something we're starting to do here just at Keller? Or is it going to be required for
I think we're
everyone?
gonna make it a required document with the idea that the title company can help you, the mortgage company can help you. You know, if you're having trouble getting one done, or we can help you. But I just think I just like to see people build it into their routine.
yeah.
Because it's part of full transparency.
So Jeff has been saying this for a couple of months now, and Steve Blink actually got a listing because he was the only agent that they were interviewing that came with that.
Yeah,
And broker Jeff taught Steve, it was a class like this, and Steve took it and ran with it and did a couple of estimates. And he got the listing.
Yeah.
because of it.
There's nobody else. Pretty much a seller will say, how much are you gonna charge me and what price are we gonna list at?
Yeah.
And that's only a small part. I mean, if you show them the whole picture, say, here's your net, if you sell at this, the commission, which was a huge deal, is a pretty small amount relative to the overall proceeds that they're gonna get. And a lot of people have a lot of equity now, so you're showing them a pretty nice number. And they're going, oh, okay. Whereas before, you know, I mean, if all you said was, well, we charge X%, it's like, well, you know, I can find somebody to do it for, you know, Y. You're saying, well,
yeah,
here's your net, here's what you're looking at. And they're like, well, nobody ever gave me this information. And people don't really, if they owe on a mortgage, they don't know what the balance is. And if they don't have any idea what goes in their pocket. And when you're showing them that, you're like, well, these people have thought this thing through and they're honest, they're telling us what all our costs are gonna be. I will show you a little trick here, is if you can go into, Remind on your desktop for MLS. They will tell you, that will tell you, what your approximate mortgage value is. So if you're going on a listing appointment, you know, you can go ahead and put in this is free to you on your dashboard in MLS. And you can search the property address. And that will then give you, so what we know is, this happens to be one of my listings, but you can see that, this is the estimated value, this is the net equity, they don't have a mortgage. But if they had a mortgage, let's do one that has a mortgage. This is a little nicer property.
yeah,
So you got the information, it's a listed property, but here you see the estimated value, the loan balance, and the net equity, okay? So you know that this is the amount that would go into your seller net sheet, right? Remember when we put the mortgage balance in?
right,
So when we did our seller net sheet, that would go in, there's two mortgages on this one, so that would go into here. And and you could get fairly accurate. It's, you know, people don't know really how much they owe. So you look this up and it will actually tell them within a reasonable, number of how much that they have to pay off. And then it also gives you there's the mortgage history. So we know that this loan is not active, but we know there are two active loans. And that's where you got that balance of 2,306,000. And then this is a valuation, which we talk about when we're doing CMAs. You can go to these sites and they'll give you various valuations from First American Title, Remine, Zillow. You always really want to know what this estimate is when you go on a listing appointment, because the seller, I'm sure, has looked himself up, right? So you go on there and you say, well, I think that, really this is a property that should be listed at 5 million too. They're like, well, wait a minute, what my estimate is. So you always want to know what that is and be able to talk about it. And if you don't think that this estimate is realistic, you need to know that going in.
And
or
it's
they'll-
usually not very
Right,
realistic.
or they'll tell you.
And
So
even on the buyer's
Remine's a
side,
nice little tool. You can do a lot more with it. But it's a nice tool to be able to say, here's how much is owed on the property. And here's what the average value is based on your valuations down here. They use the First American value, but so they're valuing this at 6 million. And then you would put the 6 million in there and subtract the 2 million that's owed when you do your net sheet. Right?
Yeah.
That number, you put the selling price in, and then that's what your first loan payoff is. So you're going into that appointment and you're giving the seller pretty much up-to-date information on what's going to end up in their pocket if they sell for that amount. And I would say a majority of sellers don't know what that is. And they want to know how much commission you're going to charge them. You're like, there was one that what was the line that the lady had the other day? It was at one of the classes. It was like, what do you think that our home is worth? And she said, well, you're not asking me the right question. Why don't you ask me how we can work together to get the most for your home?
Mhm.
Most sellers say, how much? What's your percent? Right? So
Yeah.
her answer was, I don't think you're asking me the right question. I think I wrote it. I think I keep it in here. It was a neat, I think it was like a neat, flip it around a little bit. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll
it
do
says,
that.
how much can I get from my house? Response, you're asking me the wrong question. How can you help us to get more money for our house, right? Or the most money for our house? Hey, Chris, how you doing? Good. Did you drive that 800 horsepower car?
Not recently. I've been trying, been to more and more events, but
What is the equivalent horsepower of a Plaid?
about 1100.
Really?
Well, they're outrageously quick.
Have you driven a Plaid?
Oh yeah, that's so much fun. Unnecessary, but it's fun.
So they have basically, it's a dual motor, which is big motors.
Oh yeah,
How does the battery hold up on that?
they're pretty solid.
Really?
Yeah, the Plaids have 3 motors. They have 2 in the back and then
Oh,
one
really?
main one.
3 motors?
That's insane. Like it's fun.
Wow.
No one needs it, but it's fun.
Well, it's got all the safety systems on it, the automatic
Oh, yeah.
braking and all that stuff.
And we've had our Tesla for a year and a half. That's the best car we've ever had. Haven't had to do any maintenance. There's no oil changes. It's just-
Right.
We haven't even had to do any literally haven't done a single thing to that car.
I was reading an article the other day that said that the battery life calculations that they had been using really didn't represent when you
Yeah.
drive. I guess when you're accelerating, there's some charging going on in the battery, and that if you average the drive, there's a lot more not necessarily length of time between charges, but there's a lot more life in the battery.
Yeah, I mean, there was customers we had when I was there, they had 200,000 miles on their car. Pretty crazy. I mean, that's as good as any car today, if not better, to be honest.
So Jordis, when he had his, said that the time between recharges diminished over time.
Yeah, there's some degradation over, but it kind of stabilizes at a point where it doesn't really. It's like five, I think it's 5% over the first, I don't even know what it is, 50,000 miles or so.
But if you have a charger in your house, I guess.
Yeah, I live close to a supercharger, so we don't have a charger because I'm in a condo. We just have a carport, but there's so many chargers around town.
How
Even
long,
like downtown.
how long does it take?
Depends what charger you're using, because there's different levels of chargers and
Yeah.
speeds, but for a full charge at the supercharger, like 30 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
And
And it's
you have
just
to
it's getting faster and faster too, which
You have
is
to
crazy.
pay for that?
Typically for the superchargers, yes, but there's different incentive. Like we don't pay for charging for our car, which is awesome. So I'm like, I think it saved us thousands of dollars. And
Was that
And
built
crazy.
into your?
no, but there's every owner, there's referral. You can get a referral code. So say you're like, I want to go buy one. I'd be like, cool. Use my referral code, and then you'll save. I think it's like right now their promo is like $2,000 off your Tesla for the end of the year. And then you save 2,000. I get 1,000 for referring you,
Right,
and then I can use my referrals for
charging. all
anything.
that.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. So I've been doing a whole side business with
Yeah.
Tesla stuff lately. It's been, I still have friends that work there, and I get a lot of referrals, and I've been racking up thousands. I'm just using my points to redeem for Tesla chargers, and I've been selling Tesla chargers left and right. I mean, I've made thousands of dollars in the last month just selling chargers on the side for fun.
What, the ones that go in your house?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because people need them, and they sell. I mean, they were doing 20 or 30 deliveries a day right now at Fort Myers.
Wow.
I mean, I was just there last week just to visit, just to see how they're doing, and obviously for my stock deal, which has been,
So what does a
Pretty
charger cost, like $500 or something?
yeah, from the site, from Tesla, $450.
And then you have to pay an electrician to
Yeah,
wire it into your house?
so I've just been, I mean, for me, it's free for the referral, so I'm literally just, I just redeem my points, so I'm like, get the chargers, and I have 2 more coming tomorrow. Yeah, they're already sold. I just pre-sell them. It's been fun. My own, doing that, and I have my own bourbon thing going on where I'm buying and selling bottles. You know, it's been in real estate. We still have we have closing tomorrow.
And
So I'm the man of all trades and master
in
of none.
between all that, we do some
So
real
Cabrera's
estate.
like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, but it's fun and I make money. So I'm like enjoying the fun of.
A lot of passive income going
It's been
on.
interesting.
Yeah,
I've been selling the chargers to fund my bourbon purchases, and then my bottles that I'm buying, basically I got for free because I'm getting them through Tesla, and then I'm selling those for profits. So I'm like, Cabrera's like, you have a whole like world going on. Like,
What do you mean you're getting the bottles through Tesla?
no, I'm buying the bottles with the money that I made through
Oh,
Tesla. So
okay.
literally, I'm out of pocket, literally zero.
zero.
And then the bottles I've been buying, because I've built up all these relationships over the years with distributors and restaurant owners and blah, 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 they're just, I get these crazy bottles and then,
Are you
Go sell
able to sell the chargers for less than Tesla or?
yeah, which is why I'm selling them, but I
Okay.
don't care, I didn't pay anything for them, so.
Yeah,
People are like, if they say $50, they're like, I got a deal, I'm like, you got a great deal, cost me $450, you get it for $400, they're like, that's amazing, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
there you
They're
go.
like, this guy's an idiot, I'm like, yeah, I'm a super idiot, I'm like, keep buying them.
Well, that's a good deal for everybody.
Yeah, I'm like, and Tesla, they're happy because I'm keep referring them more customers. So I'm like, it's literally just the circle of. It's been fun. I don't know.
Yeah,
And we
Wow.
still got some time for real estate in there somewhere, and we have our closing tomorrow for 915,000 for our listing. So that's
Nice.
exciting. So it's been
life is
fun.
good.
That's just been jamming.
Life is
Keep
good.
it entertained.
We needed
I'm not bored.
Needed to do a video. Life is good.
I am not bored. That is for sure. And all the events, and I'll be at the Tiburon this weekend.
at the golf tournament.
Yeah, I got invited to that through
The
my
shark, shoot-
friend.
the
That's
shark shootout.
one of the bourbon companies. They're a sponsor. And I went out with
Yeah.
them last night, and it's just crazy. It's just weird. I go to so many events, but I'm like, you meet so many, like, not
Yeah,
surprising, right? But
you'll do well at the golf tournament, just
I can't
wear
wait.
some comfortable shoes, cause it's a lot
Yeah.
of walking. There's really not very many places on that golf course where you can go to one spot and see.
We got, so since the tickets are through my friend that's, she's the senior rep for Garrison Brothers Bourbon Company, and they're the headline sponsor. So they literally have suites, like they have a full bar set up. It's a 2-story, they make it just for the tournament.
Oh, right at the.
Yeah, it's on hole, 18th hole,
18th hole.
overlooking the whole, I mean, it's just insane.
Nice.
So she's like, I got tickets, I'm like, I will be there,
I'll be
so I'm
there.
going tomorrow on Saturday.
Is,
and
is
I'm-
that,
it's
are
so
they out
fun.
of Texas?
Yep, yeah,
Because when I was.
they're huge.
When I was in Austin, actually, when I was in Dallas the last time I just found a good steakhouse,
Yeah,
and I took an Uber over, and I like to drink old fashions.
that's,
So the guy, I said,
Garrison
you know, what do you
Brothers
have for
is-
bourbon? He said, oh, you ever had Garrison?
They're
I
awesome.
said, no, but I tried it, it was wonderful.
They, so I was with the owner last night. We went out to Fifth Avenue, and it's a husband and wife, Nancy Garrison, and she's,
They own it?
yeah, and
Huh?
she is a hustler. I'm like, I told Kareem, like, I think I have a crush on her. I was like, she's just like the nicest, like, just humble, and like, in their mind, they're just like this tiny little mom and pop. I'm like, you guys are cute. Like, they're in every Total Wine in the country. You
Yeah,
guys aren't this like cute little startup. I'm like, you guys are like, they're a big deal. Like, they're pretty
Yeah.
huge in that world. And she was just down here. She left this morning, but
so what would,
They're so nice.
why would you do it in Texas? What's the difference between Texas and really where most of it comes from is what,
Kentucky,
Kentucky?
yeah, the temperature.
Temperature?
It's a lot hotter there year round, so they're able to produce it at a much quicker timeline.
Really?
So they can bust out amazing bottles in like 4 years, 5 years. That takes 10 years in Kentucky.
Oh, I got
Just
you.
because the heat cycles, it's pretty wild. It's a whole nother world. But that's a whole, yeah. I'm a madman. I've got passion blown. It's just fun. But,
All right.
Yeah, it's cool.
Are you good on buyer and seller net sheets?
Yeah.
I think we were,
Thank
I
you.
think we're pretty well done. I gotta
Yeah.
crank up for my next class.
Okay.
I'm covering for Bill on the MLS thing. I don't know how
Oh.
many people are gonna show up.
That's what I was, yeah. Oh, the joys of the neighbor dues. I got that too.
Yeah, the Florida Realtors increased theirs, NAR didn't, and we haven't increased the neighbor dues since the year 2000, so.
But like it's time.
Oh,
My HOA just sent a mailer out yesterday that our dues are going up again. Imagine that. Shocking.
yeah, right.
It's doubled since I bought there 6 years ago.
Well, if you buy,
Like, it wasn't so bad when I bought there.
you
now.
buy pre-construction or right at the end before the turnover, usually you get a nice surprise when they turn it over to the owner.
Okay.
Because the builder usually underwrites some of it, makes it easier to,
That is so
Mm.
true, yeah.
Yeah, it's never ending fun.
all right,
So you're doing the MLS here then?
I am.
Oh, grab mine. I was just here yesterday for Jamie's.
How was that, good?
It was awesome. Yeah, I'm intrigued to might do his certification.
Why not? Yeah,
I'm like, it's a 20-hour course. I'm like, I knocked that out. Short order, and God knows I sent enough between Cabri and I, enough referrals out to lenders that I've not once received a single thing.
Now, where do you do the course?
I don't know. He provides it.
did you sign
I'm
up,
assuming it's all virtual though.
did you sign up for the venture partnership?
No. But were you buy in?
Yeah.
No, but I should probably do that too.
Yeah, I'll
I
give you,
just-
I'll give you Ken's card. 'cause
I have
it's-
a good.
It's it's a no-brainer. You have to be in production and they allow you so much for your production. But mine, I didn't, mine was just, they let me put, like, I think I put 300 in. My first check was 480.
No way. It's like a annual thing?
No, it's quarterly.
Oh, no. Wow.
So, and then if you leave, you get your money back.
It's crazy.
They got like 1,700 people in there. And it's pretty,
I'm like,
pretty
I send
amazing.
so much business to, like, it's so hard for me to find companies that I like and trust. So when I do, I'm like, I send them everything, but we never get anything back. So I'm like, that seems kind of skewed. I was like, I've made you thousands and thousands of dollars. And
Well, you should
At some
sign
point.
up for that program.
yeah, that's, makes sense. You're basically buying like shares, right? Kind of the equivalent
Well,
of
yeah,
shares.
but they're the largest title company in Ohio. And they have a bunch of people down here, and you're buying into the overall, and it's really nice. All right. Yeah. I'll get you that card.
Yeah, please.
He comes in. You're, you know, in. It's not me. And you can sign up based on your. But it's no brainer. It's 300 and the first 40. This and I've got. After we close, it's about that. Passive income, credit cards.
are you coming to the MLS class? Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, all right, sounds good. Thank you for the breakfast. Okay, all right, bye-bye.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So Bill isn't here, but Broker Jack is going to have class for Bill.
Okay. But then it's bill company, right? This is the bill class or book
Yeah.
check class?
Well, it was Bill.
Yeah.
But Bill is gone.
Oh, okay, I see.
So, yeah.
Oh, so
Broker
broker
Jack.
check replace it. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as somebody show me how to do it.
Yeah,
I don't care.
exactly.
I don't care who it is.
Very true.
Yes.
Would you like a me?
Oh, I got one. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You know, I would have a pen in my pocket.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Good, how are you? Good. Hello. Hi. Yes, this is she. Hi, I do, and the only reason that I do know is because they called me yesterday. Yes, to schedule delivered. And I was really in disbelief. I'm like, are you kidding?
Hello.
Yeah, going. Oh, my goodness, thank you so much. I know you really worked on it.
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody and everybody's hard work. Thank you, Ellen. Oh, I know. Yeah, I will, for sure. Okay, thank you. You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, look at that, the class grew. Love it. Okay, so, anyhow, I'm filling in for Bill, which is not an easy job. But I'm here to talk a little bit about MLS and really, I can go anywhere you'd like. And I don't have an agenda because, just kind of filling in for Bill, but I can talk about MLS for days and weeks and months. I guess let me just start out with, what do you use your dashboard for? Because you got a dashboard with MLS and you got all these widgets. And I suggest that you have some widgets on there. And to me, one of the first things that I look at is the market watch when I log in. And I don't know how many of you use the market watch. You can take a look at the fact that almost every day in any 7-day period, which I have it set up for 7 days residential market, the new listings are, the price decreases generally greatly exceed the new listings. In this case, they're not that much different, but in many 7-day periods are double. So what is that telling you? That's telling you that those price decreases in many ways are new listings, because there are people that are chasing the market down because they haven't sold at their higher price. And if you want to go in, a couple things here, you can customize this widget, and you can go in and look at pretty much anything you can do on a residential search for a particular area. So if we wanted to just look at all Naples areas, and maybe we just want to look at single family homes. Save that and go back, and it will tell you in the last 7 days in Naples market, we have new listings of 181 and we have price decreases of 175. So again, you're seeing that relationship in almost at all levels. But if you want to take a look then at the particular price decreases, you can see that there, some of them are just tiny, like trying to get a new listing price. When you change prices of a listing in MLS, you get a blurb that goes out the next day, and it really essentially treats it like a new listing, and then it sends out, if you look at the report, it'll send out a message that the price was decreased on 12/10, okay? Now, that was not much, but you see, it's only been on the market for 3 days, so that's interesting that they reduced to 10,000 already. But you can look, and also you can sort this by area, right? You can sort it, you can sort it really any way you want. But you can't sort it by the amount of the change. I wish you could. But you can see that some of these 16.61%. Wow. This is in Fiddler's Creek. They just lowered it from 1,500,000 to 1,250,000. So what's the message there?
Overpriced.
Overpriced, need help.
Right.
But I'm just saying to you that every time you log on to MLS, you know, what we want to be is we want to be the market expert. And we want to be able to talk to people about what's going on in various markets. And overall, if somebody said to you, what's happening in the market? First thing you could say was, there's new opportunities every day because there's more price reductions than there are new listings. So in addition to the fact there's new listings coming out, and we don't know how those are priced relative to the neighborhood, but we know there's more price decreases than there are listings in many cases. So what area of the market are you interested in? Let's take a look at it and see what's happening. But, you know, I think the conclusion really in today's market should be, it's a pretty good time to buy. And even though there are contraindicators out there, the fact is when you see that many price reductions, now you're seeing people that have some motivation and they're interested in selling. And are they reducing their price just to be realistic? Well, I can go into Fiddler's Creek and I can go into Emeranda and I can see where all the rest of the homes are positioned. But if you have somebody that says, hey, you know, okay, if you can get me a deal, or what's a good deal, and you know a little bit about what their characteristics are, you can take a look at this every morning and you can get quite a bit of information about where people, but most of these are not just simple, you know, I see the 0.56, that's just to get notification in the MLS that there's been a price reduction. But, you know, these are not small price reductions. This has been on the market 180 days and it just got reduced from 1,399,000. That's a pretty nice price reduction.
Yeah.
So if you're working with a buyer and they're like, well, you know, show me a good deal, and you get an idea of what their investment level is, you know, you can kind of take a look at this and maybe every day find some winners. And again, you sort it by sub-condo name, and that gives you an idea that, you know, it looks like in this Amaranda, you know, you got properties that are a little different size, but it looks like there's some motivation in that community to sell. So I would set up my dashboard to reflect if you have a neighborhood you're looking in or you have a buyer that's interested, you could go ahead and customize that. And then and then you can go back to the overall market by just hitting reset. All right. The other place you can look that's not quite as fertile as it used to be is back on market. All right, so these are all properties that went pending and came back on the market. And again, you can sort this by sub-condo name. You can actually go in as we just looked at. If you don't want to see Cape Coral and all this, you can still go, you know, back. You can still go back to your dashboard and say, okay, let's look at residential. Maybe I'm just looking at Naples. Okay, and save that. Now I can look at back on market. There's 31 properties that came back on the market. And now you can see that, you know, there may have been, if you're looking in, you're looking for somebody in like a Logan Woods or Naples Park, there you go. Expired to active, withdrawn to active, down. So these are areas that you can go ahead and look at, and maybe you find a value or you find a property, and this is updated every day. So if I was working with a buyer and they had a particular community interest, I might be taking a look at this and every day or every couple days And it's kind of like you're building some communication. It's an easy communication to say, hey, I know you were looking in, Indigo Lakes. Here's a property that we might have looked at before that just came back on the market. Would you be interested in learning more about it? So there's a lot of different information in this little dashboard widget that is, I think it's useful. I think, right now, I think we have to work a little harder with buyers to convince them to get off their butt, derriere, should I say? And I think that's a good little widget. And as I say, I don't, list or sell very much, but I look at this quite a bit. And I try to make sure that I understand, what's going on. But here's an update. This gets updated all the time. So there you are, 1320 and 1444 price reduction. So I think I like the new listings. I like the price decreases, and I like the back on market. Those are the three areas that I think are kind of interesting to look at. Any questions on that? I mean, and if you don't have a widget for that, you can look in your external links here or there, and you can find a widget, and it's called Market Watch, and you can click on it and make it a widget. You can also move the widget around pretty easy if you want to first right up in the top. There you can just grab that widget and move it up there. All right. So, we send out those stats every month with the graphics and the 15-month trend charts. They come from InfoSpark, which is right here. So again, how many have ever used InfoSpark? Okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but you can jump into InfoSparks for any particular setting. This is overall Naples market, but you're just 12 days into November, so these are all the latest November stats, and you can go to more stats and go right into the InfoSparks program and start taking a look at, what's the market doing. You can add up to 4 areas by just going in and saying, okay, I want to look at, maybe I want to look at Collier County. And it will start to, and if the only problem I see with this is if you go into like Autumn Woods, there's not enough sales in there to give you much graphic. But if you're looking in a neighborhood where you want to probably, let's see, this park. Okay, so now we're looking at a now we can compare what's happened in the overall Naples market to Collier County to Naples Park, right? So you can build up to 4 of these, and you can kind of get a graph going. And if you wanted to look at the problem you see there is some of these communities just don't have enough activity to where it can be. But when I use Collier County versus Lee County when I do the ones that I publish. But again, you can use this as a tool, and we could do a whole class on just InfoSparks. Actually, we've got a new stats package that we're playing with that's going to get rolled out here sometime in the first quarter. That's actually has a little better, I think, a little better graphs and charts. So it's called Domus Analytics, and we're going to be rolling that out from the board. I would say probably January, February, and we'll have a class here on that. And I think InfoSparks is going to stay, but I think we're going to shift over gradually to Domus Analytics. All right. Anybody have anything they would like to explore that I could help them with, or you want me to just keep going?
You can,
Just keep going?
yeah.
Okay. How many use Realist?
Start using RPR, realist tax, yeah. RPR is pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
RPR is a good one.
Yeah.
Where I see Realist being useful is if you're going to farm an area, you can go into, I'll see if we can pick, morning. I'll see if we can pick up, an area here in just a minute. But what you can do is you can go in and let's say I wanted to look at a Naples Park, or I want to look at an area and I want to talk about focusing on that area and maybe trying to reach out to sellers. And we can take a look at when the last sale was, how much equity they have, and those might be candidates for the golden letter. Does everybody know what a golden letter is?
No.
The golden letter is a letter that tells a seller that they've built a great deal of equity, and would you like an equity analysis? So they're a little friendly letter. You can, some of them are with have checks, and they show you the amount of equity that you can take out of your home and that sort of thing. There's a lot of different clever. You all watch James Shaw in the morning, Pivot Shift Ahead. 15, 20 minutes, but he has a library on his Facebook page of all these different letters to sellers, golden letters, and different kinds of campaigns you can use that are already in there that you can use. So let's see what we can do here. Let's go and see if we can set up you do get a little bit of overall stats from your main page, but they've fully integrated Realist into into a tab in the MLS. You just have to leave MLS and go into. But if you wanted to do, let's see if we can do. See if we can pick a community out. That wants an address, so we need a zip code. What was our zip code for
Naples Park.
Naples Park? Would be 34108.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if it's can do it by a geo area. When we went in to look at Naples Park, we wanted to do it by a geo area. I don't know if you do that or not. Let's see. Naples Park NA03. Okay. It wants something a little bit more. Huh, how am I doing this morning? Not too
Well,
good.
yeah, you got a few curveballs there.
Not too good here. Let's see what we can do with it.
Because 879 Vanderbilt Beach Road was 34108, but I guess that's not helping us out.
34108 is the zip code there.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, I just picked a house here at my house, but you can start to go in and build a search routine, and I'm probably not going to go too much further here because I haven't used this since I redid this, but basically what you want to do is you want to be able to go into a community. Let's see if I can go into Mill Run. There we go. So now I can go into a community and I can get all of the addresses in that community, right? And now I can do I can do a search, and I want to add some fields in here, right?
Here's what I found.
Thank you, Siri. Let's see what we got here. So I can go now and build, I can go and check the boxes that I want. And one of the things that I want to know the sale date, right? And then I want to know the total assessed value, and I want to know what the last sale amount is. So anyhow, you can go in here and build yourself a search for a community. And when I want the owner's property address, and then I want the tax mailing address, because you want to be able, if you're going to send out a letter, you probably want to know, probably want to send it to where the tax bill's going, right? You want to be able to go and so you can look at the attributes for the owner name, location information. You can flip down here through. You want to know the sale date, the sale price. And you can do, you can now build yourself a list, right? And I can apply that. And now I want to look at I can look at the whole table, or I can now go in and I can sort this. And I want to be able to sort this by, I think I would like to sort this by, I want to sort this, if I can, by the last sale date. All right, so now I've got this sorted by the last sale date. So now aren't these, wouldn't be these be the most likely people to approach about with a letter, an equity letter, right? So we're seeing the sale prices, and obviously we're looking at the assessed values, and we're able to probably pick up on how much equity is there. So then we could, if we wanted to do we wanted to do labels, or we wanted to export this list into a program that would give us, print the golden letter. You can kind of see what you can do with say what you can do with Realist to generate the most likely candidates for sale, right? And by sorting it by the last sale date, right, I at least know that these people are most likely to have built the most amount of equity. And they go back pretty far. So even if I picked out the people that have sold since 2015, I can go ahead and I can uncheck the ones that I don't want to see, but I can actually focus on them. And let's say I wanted to send out a golden letter to everybody in that community, or everybody hasn't sold in the last 10 or 15 years. That's a good way to, I mean, you can use this as a pretty nice prospecting.
Yeah. Have you ever used that?
So,
Yeah.
Any questions on that? I mean, I have not, they've changed the software around a little bit, so I'm not quite as adept at it as I used to be, but the point is that you can use the information in Realist to generate a list of people that would be most likely to be interested in how much equity they have. And this is the assessed value, but you might want to go ahead and like, you can go into like a Realist and run this same list, which will show you the most current AVM for that property. And you can use that to say, here's how much equity you have. And that's a nice tool to say, who would be most likely to sell in this community? And you know the community, and maybe you've had some sales in that community. That's an excellent letter to send out. And it's not, obviously, it's not a solicitation. It's just a, hey, did you realize that you've built so much equity in your house, and now might be a great time to think about putting it on the market, or what about a refi? I guess Jamie, if you were one of Jamie's troops there and you took his class, you could go in and offer home equity possibilities to these people, right? So you can use Realist in a lot different ways to generate information to prospect with. Obviously, this is listed here, so you probably don't want to send it to someone that's already listed. And when it was last sold, obviously, this is the MLS ID when it was last sold. So if it's obviously these are last sold in 2004. But if you're looking at more current properties, you might want to make sure that they're not already listed. Okay. Just a little dip into Realist, but a lot of good value in this software beyond just right, public records information. All right. So,
What's the difference between, this that you just showed us with Realist and Remind?
okay, that's a good question. So we can go back to our member portal. We can go into Remind. How many of you use Remind?
I love Remind.
No? That's a very cool tool. It's got a lot of the same, it actually was first marketed as its own MLS, but didn't get a lot of traction. So it's kind of a partner tool to, and again, you can search any property. You can take a look at the latest valuation on that property. Let's look at
There you go.
there you go. This was a come list me from 2009. They rented it for 10 years and called and said, I think we want to sell it. Oh, okay. So anyhow, there's a lot of information in there that you can use to, and we can show you how to get this in a, like if I wanted to look at everything in that building or everything in Oyster Bay, now I can start taking a look at what they call the net equity. And the net equity is basically their valuation. And if there's a mortgage, by the way, on the property, it will tell you the balance on the mortgage. So when we talked about doing net sheets, seller net sheets, you can use Remind to tell you what the balance on the mortgage is that they owe. So when you're doing your seller net sheet, you can take that number and put it into your seller net sheet and be pretty accurate. Okay. So this was the previous, mortgage history before we bought it. I helped them buy it on a short sale for $175,000.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, they're doing all right for themselves.
So that was pretty good buy. So these are various, these are various estimates of what the value is. And again, if you're gonna do a listing appointment, I think you always wanna go and find out what the estimate is. Because your seller will know what the estimate is. And if what you're talking about is vastly different, then like this property was listed at 629, but they just put impact glass windows all throughout the residence. And they had put a bunch of money into it to remodel the bathrooms and and do new flooring and everything. So when Zillow says it's worth 496, they don't take into account a lot of the things that may have been done in updating. So, but these are ways of getting valuations when you're getting ready to do a listing appointment or you're looking at a home for a buyer. You probably want to use these tools to see what the valuation methods are giving that tool there. So this is one place to do it. And you can do a lot of searches, things out of Remind. There's a neighbor puts on a class, I think usually once a month, on how to use Remind. But there's an awful lot of things you can do in terms of creating a CMA. And there's a lot of other tools. I use it primarily for the equity and the mortgage information and the valuation. So you can see how you can take an address and punch it in here and get the information on a particular property, and then use it to do a search, maybe a little wider area search. Here's a nice one. Hello.
Mhm.
But this is one of Michael Bricky's listings. But you can, it's good stuff, because you can go in here and say, look, here's the tax value, assessed value, market value from the tax collector, right? Various times, the transactions that have occurred with it, right? And the mortgage history, 2 active mortgages. So when we saw up here what the net equity was, that took into account, there's the balance on those 2 mortgages. Okay, so if you were doing a seller net sheet, you'd want that number. That's one of the best places to get it. Obviously you can look at any amortization table once you know what the total amount of the loan is, but this will give it to you right away. And again, if those of you that are interested in doing like a golden letter thing, I'll be happy to sit down and show you. This will actually be able to go in on based on valuation and net equity, and really pinpoint where you might send golden letters.
What have you heard about response rate on those? You ever hear
About what?
response rate on those?
Letters?
Yeah,
I think it varies, but they've been very popular, especially in our market where the median price has gone up 89% in the last 5 or 6 years. So a lot of people have built a lot of equity, but they probably don't know how much equity they've built, right?
right.
So it's a good way to start a relationship, and they may call back and say, well, I'm not interested in selling right now, but thank you for the information. Would you mind if I stay in touch with you? Yes. And you can put them in on, into a smart plan in Command and just continue to update them on what's going on in the market, what the market value of their house is. And I think that's a good way to, to do a warm contact. All right. So let's look at other valuations here. Are we doing okay, or is this completely boring?
No,
Okay. you need to let me know. How many use RPR?
I just started, I really like it, do you use it?
No.
Yeah.
I've used it before.
Yeah.
It's good for CMAs, I don't know, for sure.
Yeah,
So when I teach a CMA class, I say, look, there's a lot of free information out there before you go grinding on what comps and how you can, do your value added, your different leveling tools to level what's on the market and what's recently sold, subject better add, comparable better subtract and all that. Takes a lot of time to do that. So what I like to first do when somebody says, what do you think, here's a home, what do you think it's worth? I think you can use Remine. I think you can use RPR. And RPR, you get to, again, from your neighbor portal that you're an automatically as a realtor, your NAR dues, among other things, pay for this software. And you can again go in and put in an address. And it also, basically just gives you general market information. But if we want to put in, you can look up an individual property like this one that I have listed, just to give you an idea what we got, but that was a pretty good buy, huh?
that was a good buy for that.
It was, the short sale was for like almost 500,000. So, a lot of what happened during the, time that I got my real estate license, which wasn't as good as now, was just a lot of people that had borrowed money and refinanced to levels that weren't realistic. It wasn't so much, people buying properties, on speculation, although there was some of that. But most of it was people that just refied. And, even when we would go and talk to these people about a short sale, there'd be like a Hummer in the driveway and 3 jet skis. Or they want to tell you about their trip to Spain.
Priorities.
How did you pay for that? Oh, I got refinanced my house. So a lot of what happened in our market was just overly, too much, they took too much equity out, didn't put it back in the house, took the money and had fun. And then it was the bank's fault for lending them the money in the first place. The bank never should have lent me this money. Oh, okay. Well, didn't you sign, didn't you sign a statement that this was all true and correct and you're responsible for it? Well, I guess, so, those were days when, the whole problem in 2000 began here in 2007 was just speculative lending. And people that say we're gonna have another crash here, it's like it's all equity. There's no, you have to have a job or a pulse or both and be a real person in order to get a loan. Then all you had to do is be able to fog a mirror. Sign here, we'll give you the money. So it was another, in 1990, it was the savings and loans. In 2007, 8, 9, and 10, it was the mortgage lenders. And they all got caught up in this idea of, it started out really, I think, in the early 2000s when the administration, even in the late 90s, when they basically, the problem was that, a lot of people couldn't afford a house. So there was a lot of pressure put on the mortgage industry to say, hey, we need to have more people being able to afford. So lighten up on your standards and, maybe try to get, and then along came the mortgage-backed security. And the mortgage-backed security, the guy that invented the mortgage-backed security won the Nobel Prize in economics that year. And his theory was that we can take and create a security of, a number of mortgages, and they'll never lose value. If one or two of them lose value, the security will still hold up. And there'll never be a situation where values will fall that far. So enter the mortgage-backed security from Fannie and Freddie, and people were buying these securities, which were a combination of mortgages. And then all of a sudden, all of the mortgages in that security went, were overvalued. So the theory behind the mortgage-backed security and behind your like really low interest rates was that properties would always appreciate. And the properties that appreciated would offset any losses from people that couldn't pay their mortgage. That was the theory behind the mortgage-backed security. So that didn't work too well for several years after 2006, 2007. And we were selling distressed properties in Naples up till probably 2013, 2014. I remember in 2012, we were still 70% distressed properties, and it gradually started to come down. But in 2010, I think it was 2010 or 2011, we had a 32-year supply of inventory.
When was that? 2010,
Right around
11?
2010, 9, 10, there was a 32-year supply of inventory. So I don't want to bore you with it, but there's a lot of people who made a lot of money because they had cash, and we bought this property, and we bought another one on the end of this building. This one wasn't too bad. It took about 3 months to get it. The one on the other end of the building took 2.5 years because the mortgage itself was held in 3 different mortgage-backed securities. So 3 different investors had to agree to sell it. And then one would say no, the other one would say yes, the other would say yes, the other would say no. And eventually we got that property for just over 200,000 and sold it 4 or 5 years later for $500,000. That was pretty good. So needless to
You were
say,
doing
these
those a
folks
lot.
had cash and did well.
Weren't you, Jeff, weren't you doing that kind of stuff back, at that time? You did a lot of that kind of work, real estate, foreclosures.
That was the way, when I got my license in 2007, everything was crashing. But by the end of 2008, the investors were in with cash saying, let's make a deal.
Yeah.
A lot of the Canadians came in at that time, and that we got to the point where the Canadian dollar was actually worth more than the US dollar.
Mhm.
Now it's like 73 cents. I'm sorry, I digress. So the RVM is what's called the realtor valuation method, okay? And they have their own algorithm to compare properties, and they pick their own comps. So if you want to take a look at, let's say I'm looking at this property to list it, I can look at view details, and this will tell me what the comps are. And it will use MLS properties, and it will also use off-market properties and private sales, okay? So what you can tell from Oyster Bay is they're all over the place. So it's tough to value a property in some of these communities because they're, like if we go and look at some of these places on Blue Point Avenue, they're all brand new. Wow, look at that, it's all remodeled. Well, the reason is it was underwater just a few months before. And this property we have has never had any water in it from any of the storms in the last 10 years. So that was one of its nice values, and it never flooded, so it's up real high. But it's funny because people would come and look at the listing and they go, well, this hasn't been completely remodeled like the one, 2 streets over, and say, yeah, well, that's because it was underwater. And that's what it looked like, and it's gonna be underwater again when it floods again. So anyhow, the purpose of the RVM is they go out and they take a look. They've developed this software over the last, I want to say 10 years. When it started out, it was kind of rough around the edges, but now it's a pretty good package. And so what will this help me to do? This will help me to find out what comps they used to value this property, right? Now I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna look at MLS and do my own comps, but this helps me to see, how did they get this information? And what did they use? And they also use some off-market properties that were sold in or changed hands in the same year. So that's certainly, I think, a real value is to see what the valuation method used, and they give you a site map of where the properties are located. And where this is pretty helpful is if you've got a property in the estates. The estates is probably the toughest valuation there is because it's so spread out, and you gotta be careful to stay within a reasonable radius, because otherwise you're talking about a property that's, the further east you go, the farther it is from any amenities or any facilities. So if you use a property that's 10, 15 miles away as a comp, you've changed the location value of the property a lot. So what I like about this is it actually goes in and shows you where these properties that it used for comps were. And I think that's a nice thing to have. It's a nice tool. And this is pretty useful stuff. So if I go back to too far. All right, so you can see that that's the realtor valuation method. And you can see that it has quite a bit of confidence based on the comps that it used. And you can see a little bit about how the market's getting better. There's no question that properties down in that area, I don't know whether you're familiar with it, it's right off of Naples Bay. It's just on the east side of Naples Bay. And everything's on a canal. As we saw so you can see everything's on the water. And a lot of these properties, especially in, this part of the canal and everything, were underwater. Especially as you go, and there's 41. So it's just out of downtown. Pretty handy in that respect. But that's what happened to that area, that insurance costs just skyrocketed. And so what we're seeing is these properties their valuations are improving because, like, for example, they had a significant decrease in the flood insurance. So it made the property, more valuable. Okay, so what else can you do in you can edit the value. I like this because you can go in here and you can, if there's been any improvements, like window replacement, if you put in what you did, right? It has bathroom addition, it has basic values built in for all of the different improvements. So obviously we added an improvement in here for cost of 25,000, and according to their calculations, it gave you I guess there's nobody on Zoom, sorry about that. It gave you a value of what that would add to the house, right? So you can take a property and make sure that you have all the right stats. Then you can also add any improvements, and you can come down here with these sliders and adjust. And I like the sliders because this is not a science, it's an art. You know, there's no way to tell exactly what a property's worth, but you can use relative values of things that you can control. What are the market conditions? You see, we dropped to slow. Exterior condition, same. Home interior condition, not quite as good as the other properties that had been completely remodeled and will flood again. But anyhow, when a consumer is looking at Zillow, their first question is, wow, that one, two streets over, looks, everything's brand new. They say, "Okay, we'll find out what, now we have to have a flood disclosure, right? So you have a flood disclosure that says, oh, I have had a claim with FEMA. And so a lot of the properties that were lower, that look all brand new inside, it was a necessity, not a choice. So you can use these sliders, right, to go based on the things that you know about the property. And it will come up with a net of the refinement. So there's your refined estimate. And that's what I like. It's when we talk about the CMA, we talk about member subject better add, comparable better subtract. We're trying to tweak the value and everybody's like, well, what number do you use? This is all built in there for you. So I would at least go here and put in what I know about my home before, you know, before I go on a listing appointment. And there's a number of pretty good reports that you can produce off of this that will show the potential seller or a buyer that's looking at this property a little bit about what's going on. Okay. Good. So this is good for figuring out, you know, taking a look at what their valuation method is. We saw the ones in Remine, probably a little lower than this one. But you see that there's a fairly high confidence level and you see what the range is. And so I think this is a useful tool before you do all the details on a CMA. And there's a lot of little, you can do it. Here's your seller net sheet again, right? We just did a class. Many of you have been to the class, but it's the same old, right? Other than it will print a nice report for you and you can do pretty much everything that you could do with the venture title one we looked at. So it's right there built in. Okay. Any questions on RPR? Hearing none. Let's go back and see what else, other kind of trouble we can get into. This is a new product that's been added. It looks a lot like Command. So we already have everything built into Command, but this has just been a product that's just been added to the Naples MLS. MLS Advantage. So MLS Advantage is is run by Florida Realtors, and it's a statewide MLS for those MLSs that are participating. And where you'll see it a lot is people in Miami that don't belong to our MLS will go on MLS Advantage and come over here and start looking at properties. So that is, if you want to, you know, before you say, oh, I want to join Stellar, or I want to join another MLS, I want to join Miami, or I want to join Beaches, you can use MLS Advantage and you can go in there and get information about a property. However, like any other MLS, there's no promise of compensation anymore. So some of the value of this was, I don't belong to the Naples MLS, but I'm in Miami and I want to make an offer on a property. The compensation was in there because we offered the promise of compensation. Now we don't. I probably have to call the listing agent and say, hey, what are you paying? Or you know, that's generally the right way to do it now. So that's, some of the landscape is changing as a result of the NAR settlement. All right. That's the new, software that, for stats that we're just introducing. All right, anybody else have anything that they want to focus on? And, I think, a few things that I'll tell you a few things that I think are important. There is a stats, there's obviously, we have the stats, from InfoSparks, but there's also a little stats package inside of Matrix that you can get some nice graphs and charts. And you can, again, bring it down to, an area. And you can go in and get, his information from for a period of time. Well, that's a neat looking graph. So this is showing you the sales in Naples Park, for the last 6 years. And you can also go over here and look at the data, makes it a little bit easier. This is the number of units sold in Naples Park from 2018 to 2023. And you can also, if you don't like that squiggly format, you can change the chart. I can look, and then you can also look at any one of these other stats. And you can do a, let's see. You can change from a line chart to a bar chart. So you can play around with this and do some decent graphs that you can use on your listing appointment. Kind of showing what that happens to be the average selling price for each year. And you can see we get a little wacky in these years here. But it's a good little stats package. You can play around with it and get quite a bit of information out of there. And, in addition to like InfoSparks, which compares, single values and everything, you can get this, fairly specific as far as
Still with over 7 months inventory.
Yep.
No.
Again, you can always look at the data if that's, to look at 2023, here's the months of inventory. So Nick, you can see that the shine has gone off of Naples Park from 2021 to 2022
Oh, yeah.
to 2023. So that's another thing, if you were going on a listing appointment in Naples Park and people are like still living back in the past couple of years, you can see that the information's changed quite a bit. So you can play around with this and it's kind of interesting. What you want to use and how you want to display it. But you never looked at that, did you?
Never.
It's kind of a cool thing. You can, I mean, it's a good, new listings in Naples Park. All right. So I mean, you can use it for cross property, you can use it resident, you can go through and you can get quite a bit of information out of there. And if you use it for a relatively good sized area, before you go on your listing appointment, you can pretty much, help people to see what's happened to the market. In just Naples Park, look at the difference in number of new listings, look at the difference in, sales. That's a big difference, huh? So there's a good bit of information in here that you can use to make sure that when you go on your listing appointment, people understand that you get it. And you can do, more than one, you can do more than one value compared side by side. That's not too good. I think I changed the color. But that's interesting. That green line is number of sales, and look at the list of price by square foot. Hasn't changed too much. Anyhow, play around with that and get yourself some information that you can supply to your customer, especially if they're the analytical type, right? Bet you never saw that before. I bet your Bill's never seen that before. So broker Jeff is adding some value there. A couple things, I'm gonna wrap up here, but a couple things that I always recommend is if you have a listing, you have a search set up for either a radius or for that neighborhood that will tell you every day whether something sold, went pending, added as a new listing, and that needs to come either to a text for you or an email to you so that you know exactly every day what's happening in that listing, right? So if you, and it's relatively easy to do, let's say we want to know I want to go to Mill Run. So let's say I have a listing in Mill Run, right? I want to know what's going on every day, and I can run that search. And on the first pass, it's going to give me everything that's happened, that was sold, active. And then what I want to do is I want to set that up as a regular search, right? I want to save it as a regular search, right? So I want to do a new save search or a new auto email, right? And I want to set that up so that it emails me every day. If anything, it's going to email you that once. And obviously I need to clean it up because it's got Fort Myers in there. But anyhow, you can get the idea that that's what's going on in that market right now. And what I want to know is anytime anything changes in there, I'd like to get an email. Make sense? So for every listing you have, you should have a saved search for that listing that tells you what's going on. All right? And that's easy enough to do by just setting up a new auto email, right? And if you wanted to add your customer in there, you could do that, but you could just send it to yourself. All right. What about if I'm working with a buyer and I want to know, for that community, I don't really care too much about that stuff, right? But I sure want to know what's going on there. And basically, is everybody familiar with a concierge search? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, concierge search allows you to look at the listing first before you send it to your customer. let's see how we do that. Name the search. And here we go. So when I save that search, when I'm setting up my auto email, I'm gonna click that enable concierge mode. Right? So what that's gonna do is, when something new comes into that community, it's gonna send it, or even if it's not a community, let's say you're looking in a geo area, or you're looking at a zip code. All right, every time something new comes into that search criteria, it's gonna ping you by email. And you're gonna look at it. And let's say somebody says, I really don't want to do any remodeling. I only want to look at properties that are remodeled. Okay, so you could actually help yourself by going into that search. Maybe I'm going to add a criteria here that says, maybe I'm going to add a criteria here that I only want to look at pool homes, or I only want to look at, so I only want to look at certain bedrooms and bathrooms. I don't want to, I only want to look at homes that are built after, not 2004. And I want to be able to narrow that search down, right? And also, I might want to add to my search, I might want to add, this is a good one, you'll learn from this. So maybe I want to add, if I can do a wildcard search on the property information for the word remodel. Okay. All right, and I can do a number of those. That says if anywhere in the property information, it says remodeled or renovated, it's gonna pull that up for me. So people
then
say,
You've got to do the asterisk.
yeah, because
Okay.
it says, that says anywhere in this property description, if the word remodeled or renovated or whatever you want to put in there, you can put comment. That will tell you that that property has been remodeled, right? It may have driven me to zero there because I picked too small of a. But if I go to, I change this to all Naples there. Let's say I'm only gonna look at Naples Park. I'm gonna take this out. And I only wanna look at Naples. There we go, they got 16 of them, right? All right, so every one of those has a remodel in there. If you go into the description, you'll see the word remodel in there. Okay, so now I'm looking at Naples Park, and I'm looking only at the homes that say remodeled in there. Got it? So I'm able to narrow down my search for that customer to be beautifully remodeled. So now I'm not wasting my time looking for properties for a customer that doesn't want to do any remodeling. You can put, flooded in there, you can put a lot, put whatever you want in there. Pool, you can string those numbers, you can string those characteristics together. But this is basically saying in Naples Park, in that criteria, here's all the ones. I guess I got a beach walk in there because of the way it was set up, but that's interesting that I picked only Naples Park and it got a beach walk in there. That means there's an error in that listing. You see where you picking up what I'm putting down? All right, a lot of little tools that'll help you to narrow down your search And I'll guarantee you that this thing's in the wrong NA. So it's not supposed to be in Naples Park. Unless Beach Walk is in Naples Park, might be. Because it's right there on the corner
Hmm.
of, might be, I don't know, I thought Naples Park ended and then Beach Walk started, but whatever. I'm just saying to you that every property in this search has the word remodeled in the description. That's a pretty good one there. That's, a lot of people don't know how to do that,
Hmm.
but now
I've
you
used that,
Pardon?
I've used that
Have
for
you?
certain customers and it's a lifesaver.
So what happens if I set up a concierge search with the word remodeled in there, and I want to look at them before I send it to the customer? So a concierge search, when you're setting up your auto email, a concierge search means it's coming to me for approval, and I can either approve it, send it on, or I can say, I don't like any of those, I'm not sending you any. All right, and it's especially important if people have specific things that they like, and if you start sending them everything that's going on in Naples Park, they're gonna think you don't know what you're doing, or you're trying to sell them something different than what they want. Right?
Mhm.
How about that?
I've even used it for renters and stuff too, when
Yeah.
they were like, we want a renter in place or.
Yeah.
Investor or somebody.
If you, back in the days of the hurricane, you know, and before they added a field, we finally added a field into MLS that it's been, you know, it's been flooded. But before that, you could search the word flooded or flood damage or something like that. And then you could identify which properties were flood damaged, because there was a lot of people that said, I'm willing to buy a flood damaged property and get a good deal. All right, so you learned there how to pinpoint your search. And you learned also, when you set up your new auto email for that customer, you could come down here and enable concierge mode. Now, the next thing that it says, show this contact in reverse. If you're not doing a serious search for a customer, don't enable reverse prospecting. Does everybody know what reverse prospecting is? Yes? So if you have a listing, you can look in your reverse prospecting and you can see who's sent that search. But if you're just doing a general search for a customer, I don't necessarily think you should enable reverse prospecting. But you can go in to any one of your listings. If it's your listing, you can go down to the bottom and take a look at the reverse prospecting. Oh, that's because it's pending? I don't know, probably is. Let's look at an active one. I didn't know that. So whenever you have an active listing, you can always go to that listing and go down to the bottom and hit reverse prospect. And that's going to show you all the people that have sent that property to one of their customers. So when you're doing a price decrease or you're making changes, that's a pretty nice captive list to send to people that you know had at least enough interest in the property to send it to one of their customers. Anything else? I mean, I can ramble on MLS for as long as you're willing to sit here. But I think there's a lot of value in MLS that people don't appreciate, and they don't take the time to pick apart everything it can do, like that little search thing. It's a beauty. When I learned that,
Hmm.
that's not much.
Could you just quickly go back and, if you've got property that's been updated, you know, and
You can use the word remodeled, updated. So you want,
this is when you're doing the RPR one that you did earlier, it just I missed that.
oh, you're talking about the list of updates?
Yeah,
Well, what RPR does is it has that list of updates. And you may have, like we said, they put 25,000 in the windows, and RPR has an algorithm in there that says, okay, that's worth 17,000 on the list price. But if you're talking about when you're doing a search.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did our search residential, and we did, let's say we just did active, single family, and you can come down here to your property description, and you can do, you can do. Oops.
oh,
fast-
okay,
fast
okay, so,
fingers.
yeah.
So you can make a list. You can do
yeah,
updated, remodeled, and just put a comment in between it. It'll search for all of them.
okay, okay.
All right?
Yep.
Well, does everybody know how to do a map search? This is really good in the estates. You can pick an address, in the estates, but you can pick any address you want, and you can do a search of everything that's active within so many miles of that location. All right. So I use that a lot in the estates when you're trying to do a CMA or see what your competition looks like. You put the address in, and you ask for whatever's within, and you can vary the number of miles, do a lot of different things in terms of a map search. But that's, okay, so we just used our location. And we got 236 actives within 3 miles of our location. But you could put an address in there. Let's say, what's within 1 mile? 20. Okay, now we can go ahead and show the map. And voila. That's where we are. That's all the actives in our neighborhood. You just mouse over them. So that's another way to do a quick, when you're doing a CMA, take a look at what's in your immediate neighborhood, see what's out there. If you want to put closed sales in there, then just add closed sales. Oops, wrong button. So I can go back to criteria. I could add what's closed, what's pending, and do the same search. Now I got the beginnings of a CMA. Now I can obviously gonna put some price ranges in there and all that, but that's a nice. And then when you're doing your CMA report for your seller, it's always a good idea to do a map showing them where your comparables came from. All right. Anything else I can throw at you? Little nuggets. So you picked up one thing today that'll help you make your job easier, make it easier to work with your customers. Then I was successful. I didn't see anybody sleeping. Only what Ming left. Other than that, we did good. How's that? Everybody okay with that? Want more? Tune in next month. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank
Hope
you.
that was helpful. I gotta brush up on my reels. I sure do like teaching from here rather than at an angle from that.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when you get to sit down.